This game is so incredibly cute. In Stray, you assume the role of this little cat that got separated from its buddies and found itself in this dark underground city and now has to find a way back out to the surface. For that, we have to explore this beautifully decrepit city only inhabited by sentient robots, navigate not only through dark alleys but also, since we're playing as a cat, across rooftops and over all kinds of inconspicuous objects. There are two types of levels. Corridors where you have to solve small puzzles to progress to the next area, with some chase segments sprinkled in between. And open areas where you can freely explore and find all kinds of hidden goodies. And while the game might look like a platformer, maybe even a collectathon like Banjo-Kazooie at times, it's really not. It is slightly more mechanically involved than a walking simulator. I mean, it is an action-adventure in every sense of the word, but the interactivity is very shallow and highly contextual. Aside from walking and running, your character doesn't really have any inherent abilities. That means, in a wide but empty area, you wouldn't be able to do anything other than walking or running. Well, there is a dedicated meow button, as is expected from a game where you play as a cat. And it is very welcome. Friendly NPCs react to you meowing and you can use it to attract enemies. Other than that, it's just here for you to immerse yourself in this feline fantasy. I think the biggest misstep, mechanically, was to forgo an actual jumping mechanic. It works completely fine as it is right now, where you have to walk up to a jumpable ledge to get a button prompt that has your character automatically make the jump to the other side, and it certainly makes level design easier for the developers because they can decide where you're even able to jump and where the game just won't allow it. But every time I was running around, coming across stacks of boxes or was high up on the rooftops, all I wanted to do was freely jump on anything I came across. For me, not being able to jump on certain objects, even though I should be able to, really hurt the sense of exploration. But as I said, it works well enough and the game is designed around it. So gameplay revolves around finding the correct path to jump and walk through and solving sometimes simpler and sometimes more involved classic adventure object puzzles. During the corridor levels, you will mostly have to find a fuse or battery somewhere around the level and put it into the one machine you'll need to activate to open up the next part of the level. But in the open areas, you'll have to run back and forth between NPCs or points of interest to collect multiple items to exchange for other ones, sometimes to progress and sometimes just to get a little bonus. I spent a lot of time in the first open area to find all the collectibles, not knowing that I would revisit this area multiple times, but well, the game constantly uses points of no return, so I wasn't sure if I'd be able to collect everything if I went to a certain place, and it gave me quite a bit of completionist's anxiety. I don't think points of no return are ever a good design decision in games where you collect stuff, and if you really have to include them in your game, at least have the decency to warn the player about it. Later in the game, you do get a warning, but that's after having been locked out of a bunch of places. Visually, this game is a treat. The art design is incredible, this rundown city deep below the Earth's surface, illuminated only by neon light, looks astonishing. And the robots that inhabit this place are full of personality in the way they look or behave when they notice you. The developers packed so much detail into this world and you can see that a lot of effort went into this. Even if there are a lot of cases of reused assets and collision or clipping errors, or the physics that sometimes misbehave. Holy shit. It's still creepy. And well, I think that the movements of the cat protagonist look a bit stiff at times. Since this game tries to sell this cat role-playing fantasy so hard, the devs should have put a bit more effort into the cat's animations. Why give me an option to scratch walls or carpets just for the fun of it, or I guess for the immersion, just to have it look really weird? But overall, this is a very beautiful game that accomplishes what it set out to do. It is an adventure game with a few action segments that focuses a lot on exploration. The story isn't really worth talking about, but the atmosphere is great, sometimes haunting or disturbing, and I really enjoyed the mystery around this whole place. The game is absolutely worth playing, though I would have priced it about $10 cheaper. This is of course, once again, so highly subjective as well as kinda arbitrary that it isn't of any real use to you. Maybe this game is exactly what you wanted and totally worth the asking price. My reasoning is that although it is quite beautiful and I didn't run into any bigger issues in terms of gameplay, it is at points quite rough around the edges. The challenges and puzzles aren't really that deep, and from what I've read, it doesn't take too long to beat, about 3 or so hours, though I've already played a bit longer than that, and I feel that at least one major area still lies ahead of me. I don't really see it as a AA experience, but also not as a completely low budget indie game. That's why I think about $25 would have been perfect. Make of it what you want. And with that, I'm gonna end this first little look at the game. That's it from Rady. Have a great day and I hope to see you again on the next game.